6 months ago, I launched and started my own outdoor gear company, making food bags, accessory bags, and other items. But that's the funny thing about life, is you never really know where it's gonna take you. This story goes back as far as 8 years ago when I first started learning how to sew and designing gear for my own use while I'm out on my backpacking trips. And I want to share a bit of that story with you today because I think it is just kind of interesting, and it shares a lot of the history of how Backcountry Exposure, not only the YouTube channel, but also the gear, how it got to where I'm at today with it in September of 2025. So let's go back to early 2018 and share how this all got started. So this is the interesting thing about life. You really never know where you are going to end up and how things are going to play out over a longer period of time. If we go back to 2017, I was deep into managing an indoor climbing gym. I thought that that was my career path. I had just graduated with my bachelor's degree in exercise science, outdoor recreation management, and I was like, boom, I am set. This is where life is taking me. I'm gonna work in the climbing industry for the rest of my life. Well, obviously that didn't happen. I am now self-employed, working YouTube full-time, and now running this gear company as part of the whole bigger picture of the business. But I want to go back to 2017 and kind of explain what that starting period was, because I think that is fun to share, and origin stories of how companies become what they are over a longer period of time is interesting to me. So I want to share that. In 2017, I was starting to get really interested in the world of ultralight backpacking. I bought my first Waymark Gear Co. frameless backpack in 2017. I was wanting to learn how to make my own gear. I didn't know how to sew, and then I had a friend who had a sewing machine and was like, hey, I want to learn how to make a hammock, and will you help me learn how to run a sewing machine? And the friends were super generous with helping me, being super patient, and I made my own gathered end hammock. That was the first MYOG or DIY project that I did in the realm of backpacking gear. Now, it was not the greatest piece of gear, and it's not this hammock that I'm sitting in either, but the reason I'm sitting in this hammock is because it's a big part of the start of what I am doing now in making my own gear. So this hammock is one that I made within the last few months after I had a hammock that I made just get destroyed by kids messing around in it and a stick poking through the fabric and ripping a big hole. But I digress. That process of learning how to sew absolutely consumed me beyond what I thought it was going to. I purchased my own machine, and then I started digging really heavily into how to make different pieces of gear. I was buying items in the DIY project area off of Ripstop by the Roll, and I was spending a lot of money on Ripstop by the Roll as well, getting as much fabric and components and things as I could. And then things progressed from there. And I'm going to fast forward a bit to a pretty pivotal, important part of this whole making my own gear company. In fact, in 2018, my best friend and I, we created a business to make outdoor gear called Kiva Outdoors. Now, I'm not going to get into a lot of the detail of that business because there were some legal negotiations that took place that ultimately was the demise of that business. But I designed a lot of the products that we sold at the time, and one of those items, I'll show it to you here real quick, we called the Backcountry Porch. And I am curious if any of you watching have been around long enough that maybe you purchased and still have a backcountry porch. This was a simple piece of fabric that we just used as a small ground sheet, essentially, that was for you to put in front of your vestibule or inside the vestibule of your tent, or to lay out on some wet ground, to put your gear onto, to lay on. whatever you wanted it to be, that was the purpose of the Backcountry porch. This was 2018. And I'm really glad that I still have this little piece of my history. And then an important piece of gear, the OG Backcountry Exposure food bag. Now in 2020, we know what took place in 2020. I got furloughed from my job at the climbing gym, and I was not making bags at the time. I was not selling anything. I wasn't even really sewing. I had kind of set that aside for a time period, but I was like, okay, I essentially just lost my job. Now what do I do? And I thought, hey, I have all of this fabric and stuff. Let's relaunch this idea, but do it on a much smaller scale and sell these bags on Etsy. So in 2020, I started selling food bags as well as other box style bags, and something that I am actually pretty proud of. And that item is a fly fishing, like an ultralight focus fly fishing chest pack. Around 2020 as well, I was getting really interested and heavily invested in the sport of fly fishing, and I was like, I want to make a really lightweight chest pack for fly fishing that has a main compartment, a pocket on the front, and places to put all of the fly fishing gear. And this might actually be something that I look at bringing back, but just had a really, really good time making a bunch of different gear items. And through that Etsy experience, I just continually over time, over the next 3-4 years, was selling bags on a very limited basis. And then some things changed in life. I've been working at Waymark Gear Co., making backpacks, helping design backpacks, test them, and essentially help run the business. And things didn't work out with the company, and Waymark is no longer in business at this point. And I found myself in a position of, I don't have a job anymore. What am I going to do? And that's when I jumped into doing YouTube full-time. Now, for just over 2 years, I've been running this YouTube channel as my full-time work, my full-time income. And I am so incredibly grateful for that. I am so grateful for your support as my audience, and just the ability for me to do this in supporting my family is everything. It's been absolutely amazing. But I have felt like there was something missing during that time. And I kept going back to, what if I started sewing again? What if I created some new gear that was more focused and created a baseline of accessory bags that would be helpful for people out on the trail? The bags that I've created for myself and all of the bags that I have sold on Etsy over the years, I've had some really cool feedback from a lot of you that have purchased and used those for a long period of time at this point. And that has been amazing. So I thought, let's do it. Let's launch a brand new website, create a store, and sell these pieces of gear that I have created. Now, this is everything from roll top food bags to zipper food bags to Diddy bags and smaller packing cube items. And that's what I wanted to do with the soft goods aspect of the business to start, is let's create some core pieces of gear that are super usable, that are designed well, made at the best quality possible, and using the best quality fabrics. Everything from ultra to recycled fabrics to the ultra grid fabric, which is my personal favorite. But I wanted to just create something that is gonna last a long time, is made really well, and has design aspects that you don't really have to think about, that just work. And that is kind of like the basis of how I approach the design of my products. And so what I've got here in front of me are a few of the items that are kind of the staple items, the things that I'm really proud of, that are also some of the best sellers. So I want to start with the Diddy bags first. What I have are the little Diddy and the bigger Diddy. I've got the little Diddy here and the bigger Diddy here. And really all these are a zippered accessory bag that has a gusseted bottom that makes it so they stand up on their own. This is made out of the Dark Chili Ultra Grid. I use this as my first aid kit, and it just stands up on its own. This one has a bunch of electronics in it, battery banks, headlamp, all of that. And then this one serves as a poop kit. Now, I have intentionally designed things here to work with common pieces of backpacking gear. The reason that this functions well in the bigger Diddy size as a poop kit is I wanted a trowel and wipes and a bidet and all of those kind of bulkier things to fit inside of the bag and give you a really nice, clean entry to the inside and also be nice and reliable. So it's functional to be specific to gear that is common for backpacking. Same with electronics, same with first aid stuff. But then I have even simpler items like a simple flat zipper pouch. This has just some hygiene stuff in it, some extra accessory things. This is the size small flat zipper pouch in a white fabric, and it's got some toilet paper in it. It's got a speed hanger for me to do a gravity feed of my water filter, toothpaste, toothbrush, unrolling the toilet paper, but also with a watertight zipper. So those are Diddy bag things that I have created that I also feel like are just really helpful in being more organized on the trail and organizing your gear with specific colors, red for first aid, and everything to just make it really easy to find. But then I've also done packing cubes. This is a 3-liter sized packing cube called the Mesa packing cube, and this is a 1-liter size. I have a 1, a 2-liter, a 3, and 4-liter in the packing cubes. And again, just for the ability to organize and compartmentalize your small gear items, or maybe you put clothing in a larger bag. But then kind of the staple or the backbone pieces of gear that, if we go back to kind of the OG when I started selling on Etsy, a large zipper opening food bag is what I wanted for my backpacking. So that's what I created in 2 different sizes. This is the Mesa XL food bag. It's a 6.5-liter sized zipper opening food bag that also fits really nicely into your backpack. And this is the larger size. There is also the standard Mesa food bag that is a 4.5-liter. So similar in design, shape, and size to this 3-liter. Has the webbing grab handle on it, so you're able to easily transport it, hang it in a tree, and do all of those things. But you also have these grosgrain zipper pull tabs and a watertight zipper, and just really good functional usable space. If you're not doing more than just like a weekend backpacking trip, very often this is all you need for size, as opposed to going with a large roll top food bag. The Mesa food bag has been one of the 2 best-selling pieces of gear that I have created, and I've had a lot of really cool feedback, and many people have said how much they appreciate a slightly smaller bag that fits into a backpack easily and just makes it also very easy to access the inside of the bag and not feel like you're getting into this big, deep, dark hole and fishing for all of the food that you've got. The roll top food bag here, this one is kind of interesting because by not creating this enormous size and overly heavy because of a zipper, box style zipper food bag, I decided let's design a roll top food bag that is not the same as every other roll top food bag out there. So there are some key things about the Aven roll top food bag that I want to go over. You'll notice I've got 2 different sizes here. There is an 8-liter size and a 12-liter size. Now these are bigger than 8 liters and 12 liters. They're more like 9.5 to 13, almost 14 liters, but I've got them rolled down 4 or 5 times. So 3 rolls would be sufficient, but you get the point. I wanted to make a roll top food bag that you had a small option that would be good for 1 to 4 days, and then a much larger option that was good for 2 to 6, maybe 7 days. And that's where the big 12-liter size works out well. What I've done is I have focused on not necessarily making this the lightest weight bag possible. I'm not using Dyneema fabrics. This is made out of Ultra Grid. You can get it in the Ultra TX fabric as well as the DTRS 75, but the durability of this is much lower than you have with the Ultra Grid, and you don't have a big weight penalty with the Ultra Grid fabric. This, however, is mega durable, very abrasion resistant, and comes in some really cool colors. You've got this blue wave, you have tangerine, dark chili, as well as other options. When I was designing this bag, I wanted it to be a little bit different. And one of the things that was frustrating to me about other roll top food bags is sometimes they have a seam along the bottom, similar to how this seam is done, that's just straight across. And what that does is on the bottom, when you set it down on the ground, it creates this corner fabric that sticks out and this dead space that also becomes an abrasion point and a failure point for the bag that's going to prematurely wear out. And so what I have done is I have rounded and curved the bottom of it so that it still stands up on its own, but by curving that, it also eliminates that corner. And it's a subtle detail, but it's a detail that I'm proud of, and designing something that just makes it a little more functional. Then here for the roll top, I'm using a really nice high quality premium buckle, but then I've also got these D-rings at the top or next to the buckle that make it really easy for you to add some cordage like I've done here, so that you've essentially got different ways of hanging this bag for your bear hang. And then lastly, here at the top is a piece of Velcro as opposed to a cam snap, because the Velcro actually seals the bag better and I feel gets you a better seal and roll for the top of the bag. This bag is also seam sealed, or seam taped, I should say. And that just aids in making it usable as a semi-dry bag. I'm not going to call it a full dry bag, but it is going to be much more water resistant than some of the other options that I create. If a bag has a zipper, I don't seam tape it because zippers are not waterproof, and I don't want to take the extra time or carry over the expense to you as the customer for something that I feel doesn't need to have a piece of seam tape on it. So that is the makeup of the most popular items that I have created and am currently selling. I've got a few other items as well as some relevant pieces of gear that I am selling on my website that pair well with a food bag, that work well with a Diddy bag and your water filter or that kind of stuff. And so it's all listed on the website. But this has been just an awesome thing for me to put my time and effort into, and the response from you all so far has been amazing. And I am just so genuinely grateful for anybody that has gone onto my website and purchased any piece of gear that I've created. It means so much to me because it helps support my family and hopefully helps you have a good experience out on the trail. And that's what I care about. Stuff that helps you be more organized, that you can trust, that is going to last a long time, and is just good, high quality gear that you don't have to think about. It just works. And that's what's important to me. The other thing that is important to me in all of this is I have wanted to have a good avenue for me to give back, and specifically give back to public lands. And something that I do with the sales and profits of the business is give back in monetary donations to various organizations that work to protect public lands. I've got a page on my website that also talks about that. So thank you so much for taking the time to sit through this and hear a little bit about the history of what I have done over the last 8 years and how I've gotten to this point of what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life. And now I am a full-on gear maker, making gear in my garage. And it is really, really cool. As far as other pieces of gear that I am currently working on and designing, I've got things in the works. Ideas are on the table and prototyping is starting for some release in late winter, early spring. That's kind of the plan at this point. My friends, genuinely, thank you so much for your support and being here and sharing what I'm doing and using my gear out on the trail. I'm humbled by that. I appreciate you guys. We'll catch you on the next one.